Okay, let's start in the UK from the Telegraph. Do not refer to female pupils as girls or ladies because it reminds them of their gender, head teachers told. Teachers should not refer to pupils as girls or ladies because it means they are constantly reminded of their gender, the government's former mental health czar has said. Natasha Devon told head teachers of the country's leading girls' schools that they should be using gender-neutral language when they address the students and added that the same applied for boys. Speaking at the Girls' School Association's annual conference in Manchester, she said that she would, quote, never walk into a room in an all-girls school and say girls or ladies because it was patronizing. She added, I don't think it is useful to be constantly reminded of your gender all the time and all the stereotypes that go with it. Ms. Devon said that rather than addressing children as boys or girls, teachers should use gender-neutral terms such as pupils, students, or people. Quote, I think actually in some ways boys are more constrained by the expectation of their gender, she said. And whilst that is being challenged and changed, I don't think it is helpful to keep saying girls, 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 boys, 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 because there's so much implication that potentially goes with that. Ms. Devon said that using the term girls can evoke a sense that they have to do everything perfectly, which can create a lot of anxiety in children and teenagers. Meanwhile, the term boys carries connotations of being macho, not talking about your feelings, being told to man up. She told head teachers, if your narrative is saying girls don't get angry, or boys don't cry, or girls aren't allowed to do this, or boys aren't allowed to do this, then it is potentially going to have an impact on your well being. So I hope that in taking away the negative stereotypes associated with gender, we can ultimately improve their mental health. Ms. Devon said that another reason not to use gender terms like girls or boys is because there may be transgender people in the room. There are some schools that go into the single-sex schools, but there are transgender students in the year, she said. You can't presume that because someone presents the gender, that that's what they are. In August of 2015, the Department for Education, the DFE, appointed Ms. Devon as its first ever mental health champion for schools, but her role was axed just 9 months later after she made a series of criticisms of government policy. So apparently, this writer is a misogynist.
Yep.
Because I
Yep.
mean, clearly she feels that addressing people as female is derogatory.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
mean, normal people don't think like that, but apparently she does.
I mean, I have a very tasteless joke about this.
Go
Please.
for it. It's a very tasteless show.
Yeah, woman gets triggered because you're calling girls girls. What a pussy.
Yeah. Notice this portion. uh, there are some schools I go into that are single sex schools, but there are transgender students in the year. Well, then they're not single sex, are they? I'm just saying, you can't have it both ways. It's either a single sex school or it isn't.
I
I mean,
mean,
and
it could be like a girls' school and there's like a trans boy in that school.
yeah, but then again,
Because
no,
I mean,
this is
that's the only like if you have the opinion that trans people that trans girls are girls and trans boys are boys, then calling them girls or boys would not be a problem.
yeah, yeah. Still, no. I mean, think about it this way: there have been, I mean, for instance, in the English language lately, the terms like "you guys" have become gender neutral for at least 40 years now. I mean, it was gender
Yep.
neutral when I learned English, and when I learned English, "negro" was still an acceptable term. So there's that. Then there is then there is the practice, and I heard it mentioned I've seen it mentioned in the comment section of this article, but we all know it's real. I mean, in an all boys school, especially in physical education and things like that, sports, the coach sometimes addresses the boys as, "Come on, ladies, let's do this and that." So these kinds of things with playing with the stereotypes and whatnot, and using these kinds of terminology has been around since forever. And if you try hard enough, I mean, the whole mental health angle is just doesn't hold water. I mean, At the end of the day, there were fewer kids with mental health problems 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. Now, sure, you can partly argue that maybe mental health wasn't that properly understood 15 years ago, maybe, but still, it seems that the more education became uh, overtly gynocentric, the more mental health occurred, mental health issues occurred. So maybe either there is no correlation whatsoever, which is my position, or if there is, the correlation is exactly the opposite of what Miss Devon thinks.
Yeah, it's certainly not a straightforward correlation that as you treat people more gently, there's less mental health problems.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think there is legitimately no correlation whatsoever. But if there is, if we are to infer one, it's exactly the opposite of what Miss Devon thinks. Uh, and to create a lot of anxiety because you address a group of girls as come on girls, let's write this or let's do that, or come on ladies, really, really, I just don't think that's the case at all.
I mean, it's just this sort of gender role phobia where there's any sort of suggestion of any kind of gender roles is automatically assumed to be harmful. And I mean,
Yep.
yes, there are harmful aspects to gender stereotypes, but there's also beneficial aspects to it. It is tremendously helpful to people to know that certain things are expected of them. That here's a particular model, here's a particular sort of set of behaviors that are expected of me, and I can orient myself according to that and have some sort of guidance, some sort of stability.
Yeah.
That's tremendously important for people. And to
Yeah.
just to say that because it can also have negative outcomes, you just toss the whole thing out is just throwing out the baby with the bathwater.
Yeah. Yeah. And uh, besides, again, I know this is controversial to say, but the overwhelming majority of people, both men and women, turn out to be very, very thankful for their quote unquote gender roles. So, no, I mean, it does not it does not hold water, the argument that it's harmful, because if it were that harmful, then how come even the most quote unquote progressive and quote unquote gender neutral societies are also by far the most gender conforming societies? I mean, if we're to talk about education, let's not forget there are more women per capita in STEM in Iran and India than there are in Sweden. So just saying, I mean, it's precisely the opposite is the case. The more you create or you strive to create what you think is a free society, the more individuals will make choices by more conforming to their quote unquote gender stereotype. So yeah, I think I'm gonna use your term gender role phobia because it really is. I mean, it just sounds like an irrational fear then chanted like a religious credo. Oh, it's a gender role, therefore it's bad. Amen. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I mean, maybe some of these elite leftist academics who like to criticize gender roles so much can live without these roles, but that's
Mm.
something that's not really possible for most people because most people can't, sit around all day thinking about um, gender as a performance and stuff like that. That's not
Yeah.
something that most people can do because most people just have to do a regular kind of job and don't have time for this sort of airy fairy nonsense.
Yeah,
They just
I remember reading. I think it was in the Guardian. It was one of the few mm, not overtly feminist articles, and I don't remember the author, but the portion that I do remember is this one. Most people don't have a career. Most people have a job that just
yep.
puts food on the table, and that's fine. And there's nothing wrong with that. Um, so yeah, it is insane. Also, one more thing, and then we go to the next one. Uh, the term "boys" carries connotations of being macho, not talking about your feelings or being told to man up. No, it doesn't. It's a whole different thing to say, "Come on, boys, let's go to the football class," and it's a whole different thing to tell them to man up. Uh, I mean,
Yep.
can there exist two separate terms? I think they do exist. I mean, well, it's only in the mind of a militant academic leftist that these two are obligatory or intrinsically connected to each other. I think for kids and for experienced teachers that have been teaching to single sex schools for decades or at least for 5 or 6 years, I think they know the difference between the two, both their pupils and the teachers.
Yep.
Right. Let's go to the next one. Speaking of gender role phobia, I really love that term. I need to remember it. Coming from Newsweek, water is wet and grass tends to be greener during summertime. Well, actually, no, that's not the title. The title is Men with Muscles and Money Are More Attractive to Straight Women and Gay Men, showing gender roles aren't progressing. Gee, muscles and
Aren't
money.
progressing. Hold on.
Yeah, yeah,
Aren't progressing.
yeah. We're failing to be fundamentally transformed, basically. Well, actually, not we, gay men and straight
Oh,
women.
I guess biology not real.
And no, biology is a social construct, of course. Right, and it goes like this quote, muscles and money are qualities that straight women and gay men typically find attractive in men, according to an analysis of Tube Crush, a website where people just post unsolicited pictures of men seen on the London Underground. The study at Coventry and Aberystwyth universities in the United Kingdom, published in the Feminist Media Studies in August, analyzed images over a period of 3 years since 2014. The guy candy posted on the website were mostly white men, despite London being a multicultural city, indicating that white male privilege is still an attractive quality. The photos and comments focused on the men's biceps, pecs, and chest, as well as perceived sexual ability. Items that indicated wealth, such as smart suits, watches, and phones, were emphasized. Pictures showing other representations of masculinity, such as fatherhood and more emotional and awkward appearing men, were far less frequent. Well, there's a reason it's called awkward. This celebration of masculine capital is achieved through humor and the knowing wink, but the outcome is a reaffirmation of men's position in society. Lead author Adrian Evans from the Coventry University Center for Post-Digital Culture said in a statement. The problem, according to Evans, is that although it appears as though we have moved forward, our desires are still mostly about money and strength. Through social media, one's private desires are being made public. Taking photos of men on the London Underground can also be seen as reversal of gender roles, since men have historically been unable to men have historically been able to have more power over women's bodies. From smart suited city workers to tanned gym goers flashing their flash, Evans said in a statement, the men featured in the photographs on Tube Crush show that as a culture, we still celebrate masculinity in the form of money and muscle. Public transport has become a place where gender politics is decided, according to the authors. Research has hinted at other qualities that attract women to men. Facial hair is in general appealing to women, according to research published in May issue of the Journal of Evolutionary Biology. But attraction to men during different stages of beard growth, clean face, stubble, and heavy beard depend on what the woman was looking for. Another study, which has not been yet peer reviewed or published in a scientific journal, found that people are more likely to be attracted to someone who shares features of their parents. So, yeah, biology not real.
Apparently.
Um, you know, this is another. How do I phrase this? It's basically yet another evidence that feminists are just anti-men first, and second, as you said, gender role phobic. These are the main goals of any academic leftist feminist because
I don't know. No, that can't be. No, feminism's got to have it right, because I've been told over and over again that this attractiveness thing that goes on is just social conditioning from a young age.
sure. And
I mean,
pigskin.
otherwise, you'd have this beautiful lesbian utopia, according to the radical feminists. If it weren't for those damn men making themselves so attractive, there would be this beautiful lesbian utopia.
For some
Those,
reason, every single lesbian separatist commune failed miserably. Uh, so yeah, I don't know. But no, what I was trying to say is that, you know, especially in the last several years, as our voices as non-feminists became stronger and stronger and started to hold more and more sway into the culture, we've seen some sort of defensive from uh, quote unquote moderate feminists. I don't think there is such thing as moderate feminists, but anyway, they'll say no, we're actually also pro men. We just have a different approach, and we actually love men. Well, if that were true, then explain to me, how can you at the same time love something but also want to fundamentally transform it? It's just like with progressives in America. They say, "Oh, we love America too." No, you don't, because you want to fundamentally transform it. You cannot love something whilst at the same time wanting to fundamentally transform it. You either love it the way it is and think, well, maybe there can be some improvement here and there, or you don't love it and you want to fundamentally transform it into something that after you fundamentally transform it, maybe you'll love it. You just can't have it both ways. And considering the widening that goes into these kinds of studies, oh, gender roles aren't progressing. Basically, uh, women are failing into being fundamentally transformed, and men are failing into being fundamentally transformed. That doesn't, uh, at least to me, that doesn't signal love at all.
Yeah, I mean, also it's just entirely unsurprising that given this site where it's all about appearance, I mean, these are strangers, you just know how they look like, that people would, or that women and gay men who visit the site would be attracted by superficial features like muscles and
Mm.
smart clothing. I mean, obviously.
Yeah, it's a website where you judge people by the way they appear in the subway. Uh, what a surprise! They're going to be judged by that. It's,
Obviously, if you're looking for a long-term relationship, you will talk to the person first, and you'll see if you're compatible in terms of personality and values and so on. But if all you have is a picture, and you just question is just if this person is just sort of visually attractive, then obviously going to be superficial.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's just madness, complete madness. Again, if there were to be indeed any love in there into the militant feminists, then you wouldn't want to fundamentally transform everyone. You only want to fundamentally transform something that you utterly despise the way it is now. It's just that simple, as far as I'm concerned. Also, as James put it very well after I read the headline, "Biology not real." Well, yeah, I don't know about gay men, and I quite frankly I don't care. But when it comes to normative relationships, yes, women are attracted to men's power. It's been a constant for many tens of thousands of years, long before chivalry, and long before civilization itself. Basically, it's just the way it is. And the expectation that you're going to quote unquote move forward in just 10 years or 20 years of progressivism, or even 50 years of, it's just lunacy. It just doesn't work that way.
Yep.
Even if you are to believe that their goals are worthy of pursuing, and maybe their outcomes would be better than anyone else's, and one, even if you are to believe that, it's still unreasonable to, oh my god, after 20 years of militant bullshit, we still haven't progressed. Well, yeah, these kinds of things, I mean, they haven't progressed in over 10,000 years. They're probably not going to progress in the next 1,000 for sure. It's just it's just how evolution works. I'm sorry.